So I'm starting my last talk. That is the slide, please. My longest day. Put up the light, please. Light, please. So first case, it was a routine case of retinal detachment, I thought. And as usual, I was starting doing PVD induction, and there was an inferior break, not much of like additions, not much of PVR. So doing triamcinolone acetonide assisted vitreous base dissection after injecting the PFCL. And there was almost a big single break, whatever I thought, and did all vitreous base excision as usual. Nothing surprise, no other surprises. I cauterized the break, and there is a small two breaks along with this large break, and did fluid exchange from the peripheral that break, and started doing laser. And the surprise started happening while doing the laser. What was the like? It's completely like it was not very. See, the apart from the two breaks, wherever I am doing the laser, the lot of multiple breaks are coming, one by one. It was not there previously. Just see, just like a sheave, like appearance. It's not the power. It is the retinoschisis, inner retinal holes. Yes, I adjusted the power at that time, but there was multiple breaks that happened alongside the that. Yes, there's a multiple inner retinal breaks that become that was a case of retinal detachment with the retinoschisis. Inferior temporal quadrant, commonest site, you can see, and lot of multiple breaks you can see here, sheave-like retina, but in other areas with the same power didn't happen. So these are not power induced, Dr. Vishal, for your kind information. So that was the first thing, case. And second thing case, it was like as usual, myopic retinoschisis with myopic macular hole. And while doing the triamcinolone acetonide assisted vitrectomy, followed by staining the ERM and trying to remove the ERM with the help of max grip forceps. It's very difficult to reach it to the posterior pole. I removed this cannula, try to see the membrane and grasp it, and fortunately I removed the membrane, but it was very difficult to remove the ILM at the time. So I just barely removed the peripheral vitreous. Then I used cutter only to reach the residual membrane, whatever there in the posterior pole. With the left hand also, I couldn't. Just tried to remove the peripheral membranes after depressing the periphery as much as possible, but tried again with the max grip forceps. But finally, I used this Finesiflex loop, and for me, it is quite helpful to be used in cases of myopic macular holes, because you can reach the posterior pole and peel the ILM and cover the macular hole as an inverted flap technique. So Finesiflex loop, especially even in like normal cases, non-myopic cases can be used, but especially in myopic cases with posterior staphyloma, these are very much useful to do the complete the ILM peeling from all around. Although it will not be a very very neat manner, but still you can cover the macular hole with this Finesiflex loop, with this loop only, because long instruments are not available easily. So I did fluid exchange in this case and ended the case with the gas tamponade. My third case, it was a case of recurrent retinal detachment with paramacular hole. With recurrent RD, I have shown this case to VRSI and last to last conference. Vision was hand movement close to face, PR was accurate. And there's almost total RD, a small paramacular hole was there. I stained the macula to reveal some kind of any ERM was there or not. And I just removed small membranes, mild, so membrane was, PVR was not much, just gently did the cautery, planned not to drain it through the paramacular hole and started doing fluid exchange through the nasal retinotomy. Just see what is happening with the this paramacular hole. It was slowly enlarging, and just see, just enlarge quite a bit. So when I started doing fluid exchange through the retinotomy, it started just enlarged the hole, and there was subretinal air. You can see the hole suddenly becomes giant in configuration, and I used PFCL. There was no other option for me. And here comes the second blow. You can see there is subretinal migration of PFCL. So hardly a 15 minutes job now becomes a huge mess for me. Like I did temporal retinectomy to mobilize the retina to close that hole, because I have to close the hole. And another is there is subretinal PFCL. So like.
You knew that your course was accepted, so it was unintentional.
So I did removal of the PFCL, subretinal PFCL through the break, tried to oppose the all whole margin, little bit smaller, but it was not. So before that, I didn't do a single case of autologous retinal graft. So I used this long back, cut the peripheral retina under the ear, tamponade, and migrated this graft, transplanted, harvested the graft from this area under the ear with this phenociplex loop up to the macular area. But the hole size was extremely large enough, giant enough to cover the graft, cover the hole with this graft size, with this size of graft. You can see the break was not fully covered with the graft, and I did little bit in the foveal area and partially temporally aligned the graft little bit, and there was still some kind of gap was there, and did little bit of laser, because it's such a large graft, whether it will be staying at the in situ or not, it was very difficult to predict, and did laser, and finally siliconal 5000 injection at the end of surgery. And I was fortunate enough that hole was closed with some kind of spikes on this ERG. Thank you. So I asked in previous years also. Yes, Dr. Talwar, please. What was the reason for the enlargement of the hole, whether it was the cautery or there was unnoticed like tractional elements, invisible traction? Should I remove the ILM or not? Intrinsic contraction could be, yes. This invisible PVR. Sir, please tell me.
First case was
Hey.
actually described peripheral degeneration called diffuse choroidal atrophy, happened in high myopia and temporal cord and the midbrain. You can see the textbook is there.
Okay.
I have one case where I have 30 holes in that area within a small span.
It's not due to laser.
Subhendu,
Yes.
excellent surgery, but the first surgery is not long enough to fit in this course.
But it's an unusual thing, that's why I've shown it, because many of us may not be. Okay.
In the second case, when the air went subretinal, that was the clue that PFCL might
Go again, subretinal. Last case, yes, yes.
So just
Sir,
to-
please.
Vendu, in your second case, which lens were you using for visualization?
The Volk,
The high myop.
high myop, yes.
Which lens were you using?
Volk, contact lens,
Were
not
you using contact lens? or were
contact
you-
lens.
The wide field wala contact?
Yes, white field bulb.
Not, see, basically, one problem that happens is that when you have, especially with the these Whitefield systems, the
Lander
shaft goes
system.
and touches the
Yes, that's
lens.
that's
so
the
you
main
don't
problem.
end up
yes.
getting. But if you use a Lander system, this problem
Yes.
goes away.
Yes.
Most of the times, the
Does
size
almost-
of your shaft will be enough for a Lander system, and even allow you to do a little bit of depression there to reach the height. Very few eyes, which will not be within the range of the forceps if you're using a Lander system. So that's the first thing. So I actually never faced this problem because I always used the Lander system, and I used to wonder why is everyone getting a problem.
We left a Lander system
So
long back.
yeah,
That's
so
why.
so
yes.
so the simplest solution is
Yes.
to use a Lander system. You get a better visualization, you get a better magnification, and you get no problem with your shaft length also. So this was the second case. For the third case, the moment you have a situation where you have this kind of traction, this is traction, this tangential traction which is occurring at the retinal surface, there's probably a very thin layer of vitreous schisis which is lying over there, which needed to be removed. And because that was not removed, so it pulled it off. And that's why I was wondering why you didn't do that, because
Sir, I stained all kinds of like staining process.
no, so when you
materials,
stain,
like
see when
tricot.
you use tricot, you have to then remove the tricot and see whether any crystals are left on the
Left on
retinal
it, yes.
surface. If you see any crystals on the retinal surface, that's your clue that there is a layer over there. And this layer can be either piecemeal or it can be a complete sheet. If it's a complete sheet, this is what you would get. If it was piecemeal, you would have gotten away with it. In fact, that was there till the end, because if you see under PFCL also, you're seeing there's a reflex coming. If you see, there's a sheen coming from beach mein se, from the edges of the hole, which means that's still there. So actually, the first issue was not removing that. The second was to put the PFCL. In the presence of that, you should have put a little PFCL only to stabilize at the posterior pole, then tried to clean up as much as possible. You would have probably got the membrane out, the vitreous schisis membrane out. Then you extend. See, the basic thing is PFCL works very well if you balance out the amount of PFCL needed versus residual traction there. Even if you got D3 and you put a little small bubble of PFCL, opens up the eye, opens up the retina, extend it. The membrane becomes taut, remove it. Now put some more PFCL, extend it. You could have done the same here. Little bit of PFCL, more on the nasal side, coming a little above from the disc to the macular side. Then do the use a diamond dusted to clean it up, or a finesse loop, whichever you prefer. But it has to be new, whatever you use, and you'll get the edges. And actually, you've actually got an eye which already has traction, and you put in the graft on top of it. So actually, this solution is not over yet.
Yes.
You will still need to take care of it.
Shubhendu, may I ask you one thing? Yeah.
Yes.
So, why did you diathermize the parafoveal, the diathermy?
Because it was such a small hole, I could have easily missed it. So that's why maybe
Avoid-
that was not needed. Yes.
The thing is, you have the pathological high myope case where you do invert ILM peeling. Sometimes actually it's very difficult to see where is the macula and where is the fovea if you're
Yes,
doing
yes,
this
yes,
kind
yes.
of. Without intraoperative OCT, it becomes.
It's
So
very difficult.
where exactly you
Intraoperative
invert all these
we don't
flaps
have
that you're going to
intraoperative
put.
OCT.
How do you make sure, you know where the macula is?
After staining the whatever 2 to 3 times, I'm staining in all of my cases where the background choroid reflex is not there.
And that amount of posterior cephalum and pathological myopia equates to around 30 mm of axial length. And you can easily go to 4.5 mm.
Oh,
or
yes,
look at
I was just
retina.
discussing
And
this,
4.5
yes.
mm will not touch the retina. And you would easily go with the routine instruments to the posterior pole.
Okay.
Both, that's the other alternative. Going temporarily a little more periphery and then doing it.
Removing the cannula that you did.
So thank you.
One last comment.
One last comment. Yes, please.
Okay, the recent interview, I'm not sure whether you have all seen the recent interview of Sunita Williams. She was asked about the secret of her longest stay in the space, and what she told was she attended this course last year.
That should be the last comment, yes.